Hi guys, today what we're going to move on to look at is inequalities. What we've been doing is equations, which is basically a statement telling you that two things are equal, which is why we've talked about the balance scale. They're balanced. Now we're talking about inequalities, which basically now I'm telling you they're not the same. One side is bigger than the other side. So we're going to take a look at our inequalities. So basically what I just said there was our definition. What is an inequality? Well, that's a mathematical sentence that compares two quantities that are not equal, meaning one is greater than the other. And you're probably familiar with these symbols. We've looked at them before when we were comparing numbers. Remember, I compare them to Pac-Man. The mouth always opens towards the bigger number because Pac-Man is very hungry. He wants to eat a lot. So here's the symbols we've used. We have our less than symbol. This one you might not be as familiar with. This means less than or equal to, which means the numbers could be the same or they could be different. Over here we have greater than, and here we have greater than or equal to. So we just add an extra little line under them, and that means it could also be equal to. The last one we have is the equal sign with a slash through it. This one just means is not equal, and you may have seen me use this before if we were checking a problem or we were trying something and they weren't equal. I'd put a slash through the equal sign. That's because that means this does not equal this other number. So the first thing we want to look at is when we're talking about expressions, we did the same thing. We just want to think about how would I say this or how would I write these in words. So we're going to take the word phrases, write them as inequalities, and we're going to write, we'll take word phrases and write them this way. We're going to take these mathematical phrases and write them in words. So this basically, all you have to do is read the sentence, okay? So we're reading the sentence, and this is where you need to know what these mean. When we read the sentence, that's going to give us our word phrase. So here I have C, or we could always call that a number, an unknown quantity. A number, meaning I don't know what this is, that's my variable, minus, remember this is the absolute value, so I'm just going to write it as I read it, minus the absolute value of negative 6. We're not done yet. This sign is less than because this side is bigger. So basically we're reading this as a sentence, is less than seven. So basically, to put it into words, I'm just reading it out loud, and what I would say, those are the words. I would read this as C minus the absolute value of negative 6 is less than 7. If we take a look over here, this one's a little simpler. This one is just our variable. We could say B, or we could say a number is usually how it's referred to. A number, and this time you'll notice the sign is facing the other way. This is the bigger sign, so is greater than, and then you'll also notice it has the line underneath, so is greater than or equal to 8. So that's how we read it out loud. That's how we write it in words. Here, this one, remember this looks a lot like a fraction, and we've talked about that. That just means division. So we're going to read it as if we're dividing. So I'm going to say my variable is C, so I'm going to call that a number. A number divided by 2. So I've said this part, a number divided by 2. This sign here, remember, means is not equal, or does not equal, is not equal to 6. All right, our last one here, and what you'll notice is we could, if we were actually trying to solve or simplify this mathematically, I could do the math over here, but that's not what we're doing right now. Right now I just want to be able to translate from words to mathematical phrases and whatnot. So we're just going to write this out. So on this side I just have X, or a number. Look at the way it's facing. I would read this is greater than because it's eating this side. And then you'll notice there's a line underneath it, so it is greater than or equal to. Then over here, we're just going to read this side, 8 minus 32. And yes, there are other ways we could have worded that, I'm just wording it in the easiest way that comes to mind when I read it. 8 minus 32. Or we could say the difference of 8 and 32. I'm just going to slide out of the frame there so that you can pause that if you need to write down your examples. So we're just basically, the easiest way I think of to do this is I say it out loud. I say it so I can hear it, and then that's what I write down, the words that I would say. All right, now we're going to go the other way. Now I've given you the word phrases, and what we want to do is we want to take these word phrases and we want to write them using the math symbols. So Tony is at least. So what we really need to think about when we have this is, what does it mean if I have at least, or if somebody is at least a number? If you asked me how much money I have, and I said, I don't know, I have at least 75 cents. That could mean I have 75 cents. It could mean I have $1. It also means I'm too lazy to actually count, so I'm giving you, an approximation. I have at least 75 cents, maybe more. So if you see the word at least, a lot of times people think it means less than, but at least means I can have this number or more. So if Tony is at least 14 years old, it means he could be 14, he could be 15, he could be 16, and so on. So Tony is our variable. We're going to put him on this side, and I'm going to use T since the name is Tony. Tony is at least. So this is Tony. He is greater than or equal to 14 years old. Okay? So these ones are a little trickier because you really have to think about which side is bigger. Our variable is bigger. Tony, I don't know how old he is, but I know he's at least 14. Meaning on this side, it could be 14, it could be 15, it could be 16. Any of those numbers I could plug in to make this a true statement. That's your one main difference between equalities and inequalities. In equalities, there's only one number that will make it a true statement. Whereas here, there are multiple numbers I can plug in for T that will still make this a true statement. Tony could be 32. That would still be a true statement. Okay, so here we have another one. -8 increased by a number. That's just, I'm going to start out by writing that. That's the same thing we were doing back when we talked about expressions. This first part is an expression, so just look at that. I've got -8 increased by a number. I don't know what the number is. I'm just going to put in a variable. I like to use n when it says a number. Is greater than or equal to. So this side is telling me is greater than or equal to. So I'm going to write my greater than or equal to sign, 20. So this is very much like what we were doing, writing expressions and translating the equations as well, except now instead of an equal sign, we're going to look for the inequality sign that we want to put in there. All right, here we have Jasmine rides her bike at a speed of at least 15 miles per hour. So we're going to use the variable s for her speed. Her speed is at least 15 miles per hour. That means the very minimum is 15, which means she could be riding it at 16 miles per hour. She could be riding it at 50 miles per hour, although that's pretty amazing biking if she is. So her speed is greater than or equal to the 15 miles per hour. The last thing I wanted to look at when we start talking about inequalities is what we call a complex inequality. This is basically where we're taking two inequalities and we're squishing them together. So a compound inequality is just comparing two or more inequalities that are connected. They're connected in some way. So the problem I've given you is actually, this is my family I'm talking about here. I have a brother, Mike. Michael is younger than his 36-year-old sister. That's not me. So if I just wanted to write this as 2. Michael is younger than, so Michael would be less than 36 years old. Now you'll notice I've connected these with an and. This is how we're going to know it's a complex inequality. I have more than one inequality. So first I'm going to show you, we could write it as 2 inequalities, and over here we'll look at what that would look like as a complex inequality. All right, and Michael is also older than his 31-year-old sister. So Michael is greater than 31. So I can write this as 2 equalities. However, I want a complex inequality because actually what you'll notice is that means he's sandwiched in the middle. So we're going to put, I'm using the variable m since his name is Michael, in the middle. So I know that he is greater than 31 years. I also know that he is less than 36 years. So this is just a complex inequality. You'll notice I've got the numbers on either side. Now I've basically given you a range of ages he could be. Now you'll notice this doesn't say or equal to. He's not a twin with either of us. So that means that Michael can be either 32, 33, 34, 35, and those are the only numbers that'll work. So there's a small range of numbers in this complex inequality that his age could be. So that's all we're saying. We're saying basically we're making a range of numbers in the complex inequalities. So what you'll notice is sometimes it's easier to write it as two different inequalities and then combine them after you've written both of the two to make sure that you have it right. See, he's less than 36, so that's what we have right here. If we just look at this section, he's less than 36. And then if we look at this section, we have he's greater than 31, which I also had here. All right. So you'll notice you can flip-flop the sides as long as you flip-flop your inequality sign with it. Michael is greater than 31, or 31 is less than Michael is. So you can do it either way. They are interchangeable that way. I know that the inequalities can be a little confusing, so please, if you're at all confused, go ahead, rewind, rewatch the tape, pause it, try again. If you have questions, you can post them in the comments, you can email me, or you can ask them tomorrow at class. So you guys have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.